Hello guys and girls, a video here going over these questions here on completing the square. So I will be showing you how to put them in complete square form and solve them when they're equal to 0. So let's get cracking. Right, so this first one here, let's see if we can zoom in. There we go. Oh, blurry. So completed square form, the trick is that the A value is always, why can I not, oh there we go, always half of this value. So we know it's going to be x and half of that value is going to be minus 1. Now the adjustment on the end is just that. It's an adjustment to go, right, well if I multiply this out, I would get x squared, I would get minus 2x, but I would also get a plus 1. The expression up here does not have a plus 1 on it. So I need to take away 1. There you go, that's completed square form. Done. So if we are then making that equal to 0, and we want to solve it, there's no point in multiplying out the brackets because you just end up back with what you started with. So add the 1 to the other side. Square root it, not forgetting that you can have the positive or the negative version of a square root, and then add 1 over. So 1 plus or minus 1. So the two answers to this solution would be x could be 2 or x could be 0. There you go. I'm going to keep going across. So we have x, and then half of this value is positive 7. If I expanded it out, I would have an extra plus 49 on the end. I don't want that, so I take it away. That's completed square form. So if we now make that equal to 0, I'm going to add the 49 over to give me the bracket squared. Square root it. I'm going to go for a thinner pen. One sec. What was I doing? Square rooting, that's right. So x plus 7 is plus or minus 7. So x could be, if I'm taking away the 7, two solutions are minus 14 or 0. Easy peasy. Going across to the next one. We're going to have a fraction in this one because half of half of 5 is obviously 5 over 2. I would advise keeping it as a fraction rather than turning it into a decimal. Makes the next bit easier. So if you square this value, you square the top of it, you square the bottom of it, done. That's what we don't want. So there's your completed square form. Make it equal to 0. Add the 25 over 4 over to the other side. Square root. So when you're square rooting a fraction, you square root the top and you square root the bottom. So you've got plus or minus 5 over 2. And take the 5 over 2 across as well. So the two answers here are 0 or negative 5. Easy peasy. Right. Okay, so half of negative 13, well, I'm just going to write it as 13 over 2. You can have decimal equivalents, but fractions are easier. Square it and take it off, so that's 169 over 4. That's your completed square form. Make it equal to 0. Add the 169 over the other side. Square root, so plus and minus 13 over 2. So x can be whatever, 13 over 2 plus or minus 13 over 2. So x can be 0 or 13. Right, next row. So in theory, as we go down these, they should get harder. But I don't think this one is any harder than the one above it. Same idea. The plus 9 is in the bracket. If I square 9, I get 81. I don't want an 81, so take it away. Add the 81 across. Square root. So that's plus or minus 9. Take your other 9 across. So x is going to be 0 or negative 18. As you can see, once you get the method under your belt, they're super duper quick. That does not look like an x. There we go. X plus 21 over 2 minus, because I don't want, if I square 20, what do I get if I square 21? It's reasonably early in the morning. My brain's not working. 441 over 4. Make that equal to 0 because we're going to solve it as well. So 441 over 4. 21 over 2 squared, square root it. Comes 21 over 2. Don't forget your plus or minus. You will lose a mark if you don't put that in exams, especially if you're heading on to A level. So we get 0 or minus 21. Yeah, this second row is not actually any more difficult than the other one. I think the next row, it looks like the next row's got extra bits on, so it will be different. So put my 25 over, square root, take off the 5, so x is going to be 0 or negative 10. Last one on this row, so I've got x minus half minus 1 over 4 equals 0. So 1 over 4 is 1.5 squared, square root. So plus or minus 1 over 2. Add the half on. So I get x is 0 or 1. Right. The next row is different because it's got these extra bits on here. So what we adjust by is going to change. The first bit remains the same. Now normally we would do that if there was no number on the end. But there is a number on the end, so I've got to put that in as well. So that simplifies to x minus 2 squared plus 16. So that's the adjustment you take off like you would do normally, pretending that plus 20 is not there. However, the plus 20 is there, so you tack it on the end and simplify. Now we're going to set it equal to 0, so we're going to solve. Something's not right. Oh yes, I can see. I can see. There we go. Now, watch out for these ones. There is something not right with this one. It's not because I've done something wrong. What can you spot? You can't square root negative 16. So this has no solution. It's impossible to solve within the real numbers. Complex numbers, imaginary numbers, we're not worrying about that. Now that's not an invalid answer. It's perfectly fine. It just means that if you were drawing this in a graph, it wouldn't touch the x-axis. That's all it means. Right, let's go on to the next one. So we half that value, we get 3 over 2. Square it and take it away would be 9 over 4, but I've got this extra minus 10 that I've got to tack on the end. So 2, that becomes, if I change that to 40 over 4, that becomes 49 over 4. Make that equal to 0. Add the 49 over 4 onto the other side. Square root. So plus or minus 7 over 2. Go up here. So I'm going to add the 3 over 2. That's plus or minus 7 over 2. So our two options are 10 over 2, which is 5, or negative 4 over 2, which is negative 2. So there are your answers. Okay, there's two more of those. So x plus 7, take away the squared of it, tack on the extra bit, and simplify. So minus 43. That's your completed square. If we make it equal to 0 so we can solve it, add the 43, square root. Okay, well we don't know what that one is. It's the first one we've had. Well, we can't work it out, so we're just going to write it like that. And then take off the square root. That is it. That's all you can do. So x can be minus 7 plus root 43 or minus 7 minus root 43. Okay, last one on this row. X plus 9 over 2 squared minus 81 over 4, tack on the extra 8, which actually I'm going to write as 32 over 4, just because it's easier to then simplify. 30, 80, 50, 49 over 4, make it equal to 0. So 49 over 4 is the bracket squared. Square root, so plus or minus 7 over 2. And take off the 9 over 2. 7 over 2, so our two options, minus 9 plus 7 is 2, minus 2 over 2 is minus 1. Or minus 9 minus 7 is negative 16, over 2 is negative 8. There are your answers for that one. Right, I am going to make a second video for these four at the bottom because they will take a tiny bit longer to go through. So watch out for part 2, it will be on another video.